He had never been one for believing in signs, but as Marek watched the skull made of bubbles slide down the glass shower screen, a bad feeling stirred deep in his gut. He finished scrubbing the suds from his hair and slicked it back, running both hands over his head as his eyes strayed back to the skull, now stretching and deforming into something resembling Edvard Munch's painting, The Scream. It meant nothing. Omens weren't real. If the bad feeling came from anywhere, it was because things had gone too quiet since the Wraith had broken into the Tokyo mansion and rescued the shapeshifter female he and his brothers had managed to capture. It had looked as if she was going to be a valuable source of information, that Escher could break her down and convince her to talk if he had enough time. Marek and his 6 brothers had held her in their grasp for only a few hours before the Wraith had used the memories he had stolen from Escher to penetrate the barrier around the mansion and had whisked her away through a portal. Now they were back to square one. They had an enemy, and they had no clue how many were in their ranks or what they planned to do next. All they knew was that this band of demons wanted to destroy the gates he and his brothers protected between the mortal world and their home, the Underworld, to merge the 2 realms into one they would control. Karis was still annoyed about the fact they had lost their only source of information, as well as other things. Marek couldn't remember the last time his oldest brother had said more than 2 words to him. At every meeting Marek attended, Karis spoke to the others about their reports and what he wanted them to do next. But when it came to Marek, all Karis dished out was the cold shoulder. Marek cursed Enyo under his breath, not foolish enough to do it aloud in case the damned goddess of war was able to hear him. It was time she overcame whatever it was that stopped her from facing Fax and his brother, before she ended up getting Marek killed. The next time she showed up on Marek's doorstep, she was getting the cold shoulder treatment. Or he would damn well teleport to wherever Karis was, so she was forced to see his brother again. It was about time they both faced their feelings. Karis was as in denial as Enyo was. The skull continued to mock him. Marek swiped the side of his left hand across the glass, obliterating it, and shut off the water. He didn't believe in signs. He made his own destiny. The Moirai could tell him the future all they wanted, but what good were the seers when they couldn't tell him the details? He and his brothers had been stuck in the mortal world for 200 years, thanks to the fates and their sketchy facts. Their father, Hades, had banished them from the Underworld to protect the gates and await the attack the fates had foreseen, believing it would motivate them and give them reason to focus all of their effort on their mission so they could return home. 2 centuries of waiting, and the enemy had finally made themselves known. War was coming. Marek couldn't wait. His gut swirled with a dark hunger, one that had been steadily building over the last 2 weeks, and pressed him to obey it. He flexed his fingers as his thoughts trod a dark path, feeding that hunger with images of beautiful carnage, of walls painted crimson, and blood rolling down his body as he stood amidst the aftermath of a battle. The image wasn't one he had witnessed, but one that was to come. Marek could tell the future, too, in his own way. He could predict the result of a hunt, because he always won. Nothing stood between him and the high of victory, not when he was hunting. His blood burned with need as his hunger got the better of him, and he stepped out of the shower, unable to deny it any longer. Tonight. He would make that vision real tonight. He dried off and scrubbed a towel against his dark hair, mussing the waves into curls as he stared at himself in the mirror. He wasn't surprised to find his normally brown eyes were black with the dark need to hunt, revealing the depth of his hunger. He tried to keep his mind on other things as he tugged on his trunks and then his black combat trousers, and pulled on a tight black t-shirt, but his focus kept slipping, filling his head with pleasing images of fighting that roused another need in his veins, a trickle of pleasure that warmed him. His eyes slid shut as anticipation built, the thought of what was to come making him want to rush. As always. He clenched his fists, savoring the sting of his nails biting into his palms, and tamped down the urges, clawing back control. He would have his high soon enough. It was better he remained focused during the fight. Afterwards, when the 12 vermin he had been tracking for the last 2 weeks were little more than fizzing piles of flesh and bone, he could indulge himself and enjoy the bliss and satisfaction that came from killing them. Vampires.